Screen name, everybody. Nice to speak to you again.
What's up,
Very
guys?
nice to speak to you again.
Yeah, hopefully you can hear me and everything's good. I'm driving, so.
Sound good.
You sound very good, actually.
Yeah, but I've been saying I was going to call in and I haven't, so I caught it early enough to call in. I don't even wake up until it's like 10 o'clock my time, so.
Yeah, same here, mate. I'm totally backwards at the moment, actually. Completely backwards. But I'm hoping to get it in after not having to do any shows now for a few weeks.
Oh, I'm sure you are trying to get it in.
Mate, it's the most epic foreplay of all time. Imagine 5 months of foreplay.
I wouldn't be able to do that. Y'all are some troopers.
Well, thanks. Well, if you were this much of a fan of Justin Bieber, I mean... No, but what do you want to get into, mate? We can talk about anything you want, man. Anything.
I'm more down with the lean drinking Justin Bieber, but that's just me, LOL. No, I like the whole Bigfoot thing, and then since you hate space, why not talk about that too? I'll just kind of wrap everything up in one.
All right, we'll lay out the Bigfoot thing. Your position.
To me, it's all. I've kind of mentioned it before, but to me, it's all movement. It's just what we perceive. So, to me, space isn't what they tell us. It's just the lack of movement. The sun being Earth in its early part of its cycle, and then the moon being Earth after, the end of its cycle, and the other planets being Earth, but under different dimensions or frequencies. And to me, it's like everything I study, Enuma Elish, all that stuff, it's always talking about, basically a higher dimensional being that we're not able to perceive in its full form. So they they help us perceive them in the way we can understand. And you've got, if you go to the Quran, you've got Allah, which is kind of like aliens. In the Bible, you've got the Elohim, which is kind of like elves. You got pharaohs and fairies. So to me, it's all either a phenomena or a higher dimensional thing that, based on your belief, is what you actually manifest. And so you might see an alien, you might see Bigfoot, and then it's because people forget, from the Kabbalion, there's 3 forms of creation. You can build something with materials, you can use a piece of yourself, have a kid, or thought form. You can manifest something. And, for all we know, that's everybody's manifestations actually, starting on the smallest level before it takes form or something of that nature. There's this guy, John Burroughs, I think is his name, but he was just on Fade to Black, and he was talking about the Rendlesham Forest incident. And I've seen the Black Triangle craft before, and I've seen it twice, and each time it let me observe it until I tried to take a picture, and it was like it knew. And so I've just been speculating that there was a conscious link, and then to hear somebody that's been involved in one of the most famous cases talk about this plasma-based technology that literally manipulates what you see, it's just kind of it's cool to see something kind of backing up what I've been saying. I'm not totally crazy or whatever. But I want to know what you think about that plasma-based technology and, what could come from that.
Well, I mean, where I'd pick you up on what you just said is, excuse me, you lay out a theory early on to do with the planets and all that sort of thing, the moon being an early stage of the Earth and all that sort of stuff. I'd say, if we're being honest, if you were being truly intellectually honest, you'd have to admit that's a theory and one explanation, not something necessary to base an entire, an absolute conviction on. Number one screen name. Number 2, what was it you saying afterwards? The triangular black craft. You'd also have to admit that you'd also have to.
That's my personal opinion. I'm not saying
right.
The Black Triangle is just a famous TR-3B type of craft. To me, it acted like a drone. Everything about it acted like a drone. The way it hovered and bobbed in the air, but it went invisible. That I can't explain.
Well, I'd say to you that I wouldn't put it past sort of DARPA tech that they've got now to sort of perform such a feat. Plus, you don't know, it's not Project Bluebeam. It's hard to know in either case what it is you're looking at. I'd always pretend to presume, and I think it's quite logical, and following Occam's razor, that you're looking at government craft before I assume that you're looking at alien craft, right? What do you think of that as a logical approach?
Definitely. That's what I think. I also live next to that nuclear training base, and then there's an Air Force joint base like 10 minutes the other way. But I definitely think it's advanced drones or something. Like, to me, alien is the wrong word. It's more like an interdimensional thing, so but the sun is plasma based, so that's why I'm saying, like, maybe that's not even what we're actually seeing. That's just what we are perceived that's in space.
Well, look, that's very interesting. I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong in either case. I just don't know, that theory. I would say that I'd presume myself that the sun is plasma based. Do you believe that the sun is the distance that they tell you it is away from the Earth, 90 billion miles away? Or is it million?
I believe it can be, depending on how you look at it. Like I said, it's all perspective. Right. And like I said, this is my own personal theory about it being different parts of the cycle of Earth, So that's why you probably haven't heard it. I just made it up.
Fair play. Right. Well, I heard a similar theory in a way that was posited in a video me and Amy watched, a concave Earth theory video that the Enlightened Mank put us onto. A very similar thing being posited about the various planetary bodies and wandering stars as being various aspects of the same one singular luminary or thing like that. So I have heard the theory. I'm familiar with what you're laying out. It's interesting.
Yeah, that's definitely basically what I'm saying. That's awesome.
Right on, bro. So, all right, what should we argue about? Did you want to argue about Bigfoot? Get into that, or it's up to you, mate.
Yeah, well, let's. I'll finish up the space thing real quick, and then we'll get into Bigfoot. So, like,
3 minutes left.
All right. To me, it's like space is time. Since there's no movement, when you go to space, it's just like the nothingness or the in between, and you're technically time traveling. Like the sky acts as a giant lens that you're looking through it. It's just like looking through binoculars, seeing somebody before they get to you. And then the Bigfoot thing, I was just arguing the fact that it could be the same thing of what people perceive as aliens or mermaids or fairies, and it's just a different manifestation of that.
Right, I hear a different frequency or collapsing of the
like your theory. It all could be the similar thing, and just based on the atmosphere, sometimes we get special glimpses of them, or like through the arches that they make with the trees and the way the light shines through it, or whatever.
Well, the way I'd respond to you, and you've heard me sort of respond to you in a similar way before, I'd say that these are all fascinating theories. I'm interested primarily, Skreenname, in what can be affirmed and confirmed when searching for something that I'd call ultimate truth. So you've got the world of form, appearances, and such like, which is what the field where you're sort of playing intellectually currently. Planets, Bigfoot, manifestations. I'm interested in what's actually true about the nature of our experience. And so in any case, you'd have to go within and not look without and get caught up in the manifestation side of our experience. Would you corroborate that?
Yeah, for sure. That's what we all want, is proof, right? The truth is out there. But with that being said, then the truth or the fact that you're looking for, looking inward, becomes situational or perspective, so
like
it could be different to everybody,
Well, I'm looking for the non-subjective reality,
for sure. But that's what I just wanted to know what you would think. I'm not saying that is fact. That's just what I've come up with and believe, and I just wanted your take on, how you thought about that.
Well, I'm fascinated. I mean, to be honest, I'm poised to get you on a second call, even though I've never done that before, because I'm sort of liking the conversation. Would you do it?
Sweet, for sure.
All right, well, let's finish this one out first, because it will come to in fact, we could just do a follow-on, but fuck it. Well, we could, like I said, I'm interested in any case in objective reality, and I don't think we can. I try not to get swept up in the stuff of the contents of mind or experience. I'm interested in the basis for experience itself, and I have to become most interested in the observer principle. This one's about to end, Screener. I'm going to get you on another one instantaneously, so just stick around. But we'll enjoy dying together and being reborn. Why not?
Oh, I love dying.
best thing in the world.
Kills the ego.
Exactly, dude. Well, I want to die before I die, if you know what I'm saying.
Actually, I die in my dreams all the time because I died like during a trip one time.
Oh yeah. Well, look,
Yeah.
let's do this. What do you want? Should we go for a beach now? I say, here you go. Let's go to the beach.
Yeah, why
Screen
not?
name.
Paradise after we die.
Well, exactly. There you go. We're in heaven, fam. You know, heaven's got some chicks playing volleyball. Just saying. All right, screen name. What? So do you see where I'm at? So that's my position. What is the observer? I have to get most interested in that. And you're right when you say it's hard to use the mind, the faculty of the sort of gross mind, the human mind, the mind-body complex, to study that which, by virtue or by virtue of which the mind can exist at all. So it's an incredibly tricky process to try and hold the mirror of the human mind up to whatever the observer is and come up with anything tangible. But there are ways through negation and self-inquiry and asking the right questions about what you are not to arrive at some with some confidence about what sort of your true nature might be, or the true qualities of the observer. I say it is infinite. I say it has the unique ability to perceive. It is formless. It is tranquil, and it is the very basis for reality. It is omnipresent. It is essentially what we're describing when we talk about God or something like that. You know, so that's
everything and nothing. You know, like you say, it's formless, but formless is a form. You know.
Well, see, I think form is a mere concept or an apparition arising in this sort of theoretical space. I think form is a fantasy. I think form doesn't exist. Like you said, space and time is sort of one and the same, or an inversion of each other. Really, look, think about it. If you want to experience three dimensions, you have to travel through time in order to appreciate the three-dimensional quality of so-called form. There is no three dimensions. There are no three dimensions. There is no time. These are all sort of the illusion. These are the illusion being observed by mind and ultimately by the observer. That has to be my position.
Yeah, it's almost like the experience itself, because just say quote unquote time. We experience that. Everybody experiences it differently. You know, like that's why we have clocks, just to be places at the same time. If you're having fun, something flies by. You know, if it's miserable, it drags out. But it's the same amount of time based on an outside perspective. So like you said, time doesn't even really matter.
No, exactly.
Let me throw this at you. I got a crazy scenario. It kind of involves the observer and a physical object.
All right.
So I've had certain instances where I get in arguments with people because like I'm pretty good on remembering what happened with whatever experiences I have, and the first time I ran into it, basically somebody was saying, "No, this happened." I'm like, "No, you're crazy. This happened." And
yeah,
and,
I've had
so
that.
like you said earlier, we even remember things that's not really too reliable in some cases.
Right on.
But there was an instance where my mom, I was at her house leaving late one night, and she was half asleep and gave me this new house key, apparently. And it doesn't fit anything, like any of the doors, nothing. And she swears that she never gave me this key, that she doesn't know where it came from, that I'm crazy. And I'm like, oh, so I just picked up a random key and was like, oh, I'm going to use this for your new house key from now on. Like, so we remember the situation different for both of us, but there's a key that came out of it somehow.
Damn. Well, providing your mom's not gaslighting you and she's a psycho. I mean, is she a psycho?
It depends on what day you catch her and on what dose of
There you go. Because that is like major gaslighting shit. But hey, I don't know, bro. But on that one, I've had many experiences where people will swear they've said something that I'm convinced they have not said. You know, even when I'm really focused on the conversation or whatnot. So humans cannot be like eyewitness statements cannot be ultimately reliable. No. I agree with you. This is, but all the more reason, brother, to use a sort of inferential cognizer I should say negation to arrive at at truth, ultimate truth, rather than testimony, or witness
And that's
statements.
why the key is so important, because like whether she remembers it or not, I have this key. So
Yeah.
like, where did the key come from? It doesn't fit any door at my house, her house. Like, that's really all I go when I'm not working. So it's like the key is what's crazy. I still have it just in case something ever,
That's crazy.
Well,
like maybe one day there's
yeah.
this lock nobody can open, and that's the key that fits it. Who knows?
Well, dude, it's a great start to an awesome time travel sci-fi movie or book. I know that. Well, I used to love the scenes in Bill and Ted, where they'd suddenly have an idea. Hey, why don't we, in the future, come back in time, leave ourselves the key here, and then they just look around at the back of the sign, and it's like, there it is, because they did go on to do that. I do love that sort of shit.
Hey, that's manifestation, maybe. Maybe manifestation is the way time works like that, the way we perceive it. Because
Well,
to
I
me,
won't say-
time is
yeah.
space. Like, time is just an area.
Well, look, me too, brother. Like time. Well, look, unless you're trying to understand reality from the point of view of the observer, which itself, there is no time or quality of time to or about. It just is. It just bears witness. Everything
Yeah.
else, so supposedly happening in relation to the still witness, appears in such a way as we've come to measure it, probably crudely. By calling it time or third dimension, 3 dimensions or whatnot, but I think
we
ultimately,
need better lingo for it.
well, like I said, gotta start with the observer. What is the observer? There's no better question than that, because if you cannot, all roads lead to it, and if you cannot answer it, you will know. You'll be out in the weeds with trying to explain reality or experience it. That is the starting point. As far as I'm concerned, skreenname, you've heard me say it before. We are not human. We are the observer. Whatever the observer is in quality, doesn't describe a human. So, and that for me is where it is the most fascinating thing we could try and grapple with. That right there is how you're going to solve the riddle of life.
I can agree with that, and because it's like you said, what is the observer? Because
Yeah.
plants act in their best interest, moving towards the sun, away from the sounds of caterpillars munching on other plants' leaves or whatever. But they don't have brains, So it's like, at what level does consciousness start? Could a big gas of hydrogen, once it gets big enough, be conscious or sentient? We don't. Like, what is the outline or the parameters for that?
Well, I'd have to presume that consciousness was first, is the first principle, the foundation. A bit like what Dragon Sage was saying. I can't remember the term he used, but
But can its levels be measured?
As in consciousness. Well, yeah. How do you measure consciousness? There is absolutely profound. It can see but cannot be seen. I mean, I do believe that right there is the basis, the foundation, the absolute. I think gas clouds, however big they might appear, are essentially descriptions of ones and zeros upon the hard drive of universal mind that must have arisen spontaneously out of consciousness itself, that created a simulation of sorts by which the consciousness can come to perhaps understand things about itself qualitatively, for it has no other means by which to do so, because it cannot see itself. That's what I seem to think we're looking at with this universe, and I think, unless we get there, we are not fully working on behalf of the universe in the way that was intended to hold the mirror back up to consciousness and say, these are your qualities, until we resonate with whatever those qualities really are. And I find that they're divine, tranquil, everything I've laid out, fearless, nothing negative, because negative is manifestations of the sort of our ignorance of the fact or of our true nature. Then we're not really performing our proper function. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Except I would say there shouldn't be any good either, because it's
Right.
bad and good is perspective, and there's equal and opposite reaction. So if you're, trying to be good, somebody else is trying to be bad. So you want to be neutral. But like you said, it's all ones and zeros, positive and negative. The sun is the 1, the moon is the 0 to me. And it's movement. It's a wave. You see it in the landscape.
I'll say this to you, brother, on a neutral front. We got here before, and I've got to lay this out to you. Consciousness has a positive quality. It's not, it is neutral in a sense because it just is, but it is positively tranquil. It's not to assume that it's just like, It's not just, to be, it's true nature.
But I think it is.
Well, no,
Because,
this
like,
is where we'd argue.
what's the positiveness of it? Explain the positive part.
Well,
to me.
no, it's not. What I mean is, it has a quality, and it happens to be problem-free because it is formless, and therefore, what would be the positive manifestation of something that is problem-free? Tranquility itself is what it would be. That's how you can ascertain the true
that
quality.
would be the balance. Like you know,
Right,
you don't
right.
have any push or pull. It's just a simple line, you know, with
But
no squiggle.
But it is positively blissful to be without problems, and that's where we
Oh
made
yeah,
this.
yes,
Right.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Screen name. Laters, brother. That was fucking awesome. Well, that did rock, though. Yeah. Thank you, Screen name.